I never thought I'd be the kind of person to open my grandmother's coffin in the middle of the night. But there I was, at 2 a.m. in Hillcrest Cemetery, a crowbar in my shaking hands, about to commit a felony. And the worst part, my own mother was the one who handed me the crowbar. You see, 3 days earlier, I received a letter that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why some secrets should stay buried. But before we dive in, if you love twisted family drama and stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for Story Matrix Hub. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this goes. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Marcus, and I'm a 32-year-old high school teacher in Portland, Oregon. I've always lived what you'd call an ordinary life. Good job, small apartment, weekend hikes, nothing extraordinary. My family was small and tight-knit. Just me, my mom Linda, and until 3 weeks ago, my grandmother, Eleanor. Grandma Eleanor was 87 when she passed. A stroke, quick and painless, they said. We held a beautiful funeral. My mom cried silently beside me as they lowered the casket into the ground. I held her hand, and we said our goodbyes to the woman who raised my mother alone after my grandfather died in Vietnam. The inheritance was modest. Grandma Eleanor had been a librarian her whole life. Her house in suburban Seattle, some savings bonds, her wedding ring. Mom inherited everything, which made sense since I was her only child, and she was Eleanor's only child. No drama, no fighting. Just grief and memories. Then, exactly 1 week after the funeral, I received the letter. It came in an old yellow envelope, the kind nobody uses anymore. My address was handwritten in shaky cursive. No return address. Inside was a single page, also handwritten, dated 2 months before my grandmother died. My dearest Marcus, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to know that I loved you with every fiber of my being, and what I'm about to tell you comes from that love, not from cruelty. Your mother is not who you think she is. In my bedroom closet, behind the false panel in the back left corner, there is a metal box. Inside that box is the truth about your family, about what happened to your grandfather, and about why your mother can never know you found this. Marcus, you need to retrieve this box before your mother sells the house. She's scheduled to list it next month. Once you have it, you'll understand everything. You'll understand why I couldn't tell you while I was alive. You'll understand why your mother has nightmares. And you'll understand why you must be very, very careful. I'm sorry I'm leaving you with this burden, but you deserve to know who you really are. With all my love, Grandma Eleanor. P.S. Trust no one. Not even family. Especially not family. I read that letter 17 times that first night. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Your mother is not who you think she is. What the hell did that mean? I knew my mother. Linda Richardson, 54 years old, worked as a nurse at Portland General Hospital for 20 years. Volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. Brings me homemade lasagna every other Tuesday. She's the most normal, stable person I know. But Grandma Eleanor's words kept echoing. This wasn't confused rambling. This was calculated. Planned. I called my mom the next morning, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey Mom. I was thinking about coming up to Seattle this weekend. Help you go through Grandma's things. There was a pause. A pause that lasted just a fraction too long. Oh, sweetheart, that's thoughtful, but I've actually already started. I've got most of it handled. I'd still like to help. I could take some time to say goodbye to the house. Another pause. Marcus, honey, I think it's better if I handle this. Too many memories. I don't want you getting all sad. She'd never turned down my help before. Never. Mom, I want to be there. Marcus. Her voice had an edge now. I said I've got it handled. I'll bring you anything you want from the house. Just make a list. We hung up shortly after. My stomach was churning. That afternoon, I called in sick to work and drove the 3 hours to Seattle. I parked 2 blocks away from Grandma's house and waited until I saw my mom's car leave. I still had my key. My hands were sweating as I unlocked the door. The house felt wrong. Empty houses always feel different, but this was more than that. Someone had been going through things systematically. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled in my mother's handwriting. Donate, keep, trash. I went straight to the bedroom. The closet door creaked as I opened it. I pushed aside hanging clothes, floral dresses that still smelled of Grandma's lavender perfume. My throat tightened. The back of the closet was cedar paneling. I pressed on each panel, feeling for something loose. Nothing. I knocked gently, listening for a hollow sound. Back left corner, the letterhead said. I crouched down and examined the lower panels. There, a tiny gap in the wood grain. I pressed it, and a section of paneling popped loose. Behind it was a small recess. And inside that recess was a metal lockbox, fireproof, about the size of a shoebox. I pulled it out with trembling hands. It was heavy. There was a combination lock on the front. I tried everything. Grandma's birthday. My birthday. My mom's birthday. Nothing worked. Then I noticed something scratched into the bottom. Luke 23 verse 34. A Bible verse. I looked it up on my phone. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The numbers. 2-3-3-4. The lock clicked open. Inside were documents. Old yellow documents. Photographs. News clippings. And a diary with a cracked leather cover. I spread everything on Grandma's bed, my heart hammering. The first thing I picked up was a photograph. Black and white, dated 1972 on the back. It showed my grandmother, young and smiling, holding a baby. My mother. Beside her stood a man in military uniform. My grandfather. But written on the back. The last photo before everything changed. Before I knew what he really was. What he really was. I picked up a news clipping, dated March 1973. Military cover-up suspected in death of Sergeant Richard Beaumont. Beaumont. Not Richardson. That was my grandmother's maiden name. I read further. Sergeant Richard Beaumont, 28, was found dead in his home from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, family members questioned the official account, citing suspicious circumstances. Beaumont had recently returned from his second tour in Vietnam. His wife was away visiting family. The couple's 2-year-old daughter was in the home but was unharmed. My hand started shaking. Suicide. My grandfather committed suicide. But my mom always told me he died heroically in combat. And my mom, she was in the house when it happened. She was 2 years old. I grabbed the diary and opened to a random page. May 15th, 1973. The nightmares are getting worse. Linda wakes up screaming every night, crying for her daddy. She's only 2, but she knows something terrible happened. The doctors say she's too young to remember, but I see it in her eyes. She saw something that night. The military closed the case. Suicide, they said. But I know Richard. He wouldn't do that. Not with Linda in the house. Someone killed my husband. And someone is making sure I never find out who. The room tilted. I sat down on the bed, diary clutched in my hands. I flipped through more entries. June 3rd, 1973. A man came to the house today. Said he was from the VA. But he asked strange questions about what Richard told me before he died. I told him nothing. I don't trust anyone. August 12th, 1973. I've decided to change our names to Richardson. For Linda's safety. Whatever Richard got involved in, I won't let them find us. November 20th, 1973. Linda spoke today. First real sentence in months. She pointed at the closet and said, "Daddy's hiding." I opened it. Nothing there. But she kept pointing. Daddy's hiding from the bad man. I was crying now, tears dropping onto the pages. My mother had witnessed her father's death. Had been traumatized by it. And Grandma had spent her life protecting that secret. But there was more. A manila envelope unsealed. Inside were military records. Investigation reports. And a letter on official military letterhead, dated April 1973. Mrs. Beaumont, regarding your inquiries into your husband's death, we must inform you this matter has been thoroughly investigated and closed. Your husband's death has been ruled a suicide. Continued questioning may place you and your family at risk. Certain aspects of your husband's service are classified. We strongly advise you to cease all inquiries. For your daughter's sake, let your husband rest in peace. The letter was unsigned. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Marcus, are you at the house? I can see your car. What are you doing there? My heart stopped. I looked out the window. My mom's car was parked out front. I heard the front door open downstairs. Marcus? Her voice drifted up. Marcus, I know you're here. I shoved everything back into the box and held it against my chest. Her footsteps were on the stairs. Sweetheart, what are you doing in Grandma's room? She appeared in the doorway. For a moment, we stared at each other. Her eyes dropped to the box, and I watched her face transform. The color drained. Her eyes went wide, then narrow. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Where did you find that? Barely a whisper. In the closet. Behind the panel. Grandma left me a letter. My mom's hand gripped the doorframe, knuckles white. Give me the box, Marcus. Mom, what happened to Grandpa? What really happened? Give me the box. He didn't die in Vietnam, did he? He died here. In your house. And you were there. Something in her eyes flickered. Fear. Raw, primal fear. You don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand what you're risking. Then explain it to me. She took a step into the room. My mother had no right to burden you with this. She promised me this would die with her. What would die with her? My mom's eyes filled with tears. Everything. I've been afraid every single day of my life since I was 2 years old. She moved closer, hand outstretched. Marcus, please. If you love me, give me that box and walk away. Forget you found it. I can't. You have to. If you don't, they'll find out. They'll know we're still digging. And they'll come back. Who, Mom? Who are they? She shook her head frantically. I don't know. I was 2. But I remember hiding in the closet. I remember the sound. And I remember a man's voice, not Daddy's, someone else, saying check on the kid. And Daddy told me to stay quiet. And I did. I stayed so quiet even when he was dying. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing. I sat beside her, still holding the box. You saw him. The bad man. Just heard his voice. And footsteps. And the smell. Cigarettes. For years, that smell gave me panic attacks. We sat in silence. Mom, we have to know the truth. Don't you want justice? She looked at me with haunted eyes. Justice? My father has been dead for 50 years. Those people are probably dead too. But Grandma kept all this for a reason. She wanted us to know. She wanted you to know. Not me. She knew I couldn't handle it. I stood up. I'm taking this box. I'm going to find out what happened. Marcus, no. I'm sorry, Mom. I walked past her, down the stairs, out to my car. She followed, pleading, but I didn't stop. In my rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the driveway, small and broken. That was 4 days ago. Since then, I've barely slept. I've been going through everything. The diary, photos, documents. And I've discovered something. Grandma Eleanor wasn't just protecting a secret. She was investigating a murder. For 50 years, she quietly collected evidence, followed leads, documented everything. And the truth she found is darker than I ever imagined. 3 days ago, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. I always lock it. Always. Someone had searched my place. Not trashed, carefully searched. Drawers opened, cushions moved, books pulled from shelves. They were looking for the box. But I'd hidden it. The box itself was in a storage unit. Documents in my classroom. The diary in a safe place. On my kitchen counter was a business card. Plain white. Just a phone number and 4 words. We need to talk. I called my mom immediately. They were in my apartment. Silence. Then, pack a bag. Come to my house. Now. Mom. Now, Marcus. Please. I packed and drove to Portland. We spent that night at Mom's house, barely speaking, barely sleeping. The next morning, I called the number. It rang 3 times. Mr. Richardson. A man's voice calm. Thank you for calling. Who are you? Someone who can help you understand what you've stumbled into. Someone who can offer you a way out. What situation? Where you're in possession of classified materials related to a sensitive military operation from 1973. My mouth went dry. I'm not giving you anything. I'm asking you to meet with me. One conversation. And if I refuse? A pause. Then we'll be forced to recover the materials through other means. Your mother has worked very hard to build a life. It would be a shame to see that destroyed. A threat. Fine. Where and when? Pike Place Market. Tomorrow at noon. Come alone. He hung up. I told Mom. Her face went white. You can't meet them. I have to. They're going to come after us anyway. That's what they do. Which is why I need to understand what's really going on. Mom said something that changed everything. Your grandfather wasn't just a soldier, Marcus. He was intelligence. Whatever he found out, they killed him for it. The next day, I went to Pike Place Market. Crowded with tourists. I waited by the fish throwers. At 12:03, a man approached. Mid-50s, gray suit, forgettable face. Mr. Richardson. Walk with me. We walked through the market. Your grandfather was a good man, he said. Brave. But he made a mistake. He saw something he shouldn't have. What did he learn? The man smiled. That's classified. You have materials that belong to the government. We need them back. They're my grandmother's personal documents. Personal documents containing classified information about Black Ops. Information that could compromise national security even now. Or expose a murder. He stopped walking. Your grandfather's death was ruled a suicide. That ruling stands. My mother heard another voice that night. Your mother was too. Memories from that age are unreliable. So she imagined it? She was traumatized. The mind creates narratives to explain trauma. I wanted to punch him. What do you want? Return the materials. In exchange, we leave you alone. And if I refuse? Then your life becomes very difficult. Jobs lost. Reputations destroyed. Accidents happen. He handed me a card. You have 48 hours. He walked away. When I got home, Mom was waiting. I told her everything. We have to give them what they want, she said. No. We have to finish what Grandma started. The truth will get us killed. So we're giving up. Mom, they're never going to leave us alone. We're already targets. She stared at me. You're right. We're already targets. That's when I decided. We need leverage. We need proof. Real proof of what they did. We don't have proof. No. But Grandma did. She spent 50 years investigating. She must have found something concrete. Where? I pulled out the letter again. The P.S. Trust no one. Not even family. P.S., I said. Postscript. But also public storage. Grandma had a storage unit. Mom's eyes went wide. I'd forgotten. She rented 1 year ago. We found it. A storage unit in Tacoma, paid for 5 years. Mom was the backup contact. Unit 237. We opened it. Boxes. Dozens of boxes, all labeled. Dates, locations, names. An archive of Grandma's investigation. And hanging on the wall, a photograph. 3 men in military uniforms in Vietnam. One was my grandfather. Below, in Grandma's handwriting. Richard Beaumont, William Crawford, James Morrison. Phoenix Program. 1972. 2 of these men are dead. One killed them both. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. We know about the storage unit. We're coming. Last chance to walk away. I looked at Mom. We're not walking away. We're ending this. Start loading boxes into the car, I told Mom. Everything. We're taking all of it. My hands were shaking as I pulled down the first box. It was surprisingly heavy. Mom grabbed another, and we worked in frantic silence. We'd loaded about half when I heard it. A car engine. Tires on gravel. Headlights swept across the entrance. Mom, get in the car. Now. We jumped into my Honda, boxes piled high in the back seat. I peeled out just as a black SUV pulled in. In my rearview mirror, I saw 2 men get out. One pointed at us. They're following us, Mom said. I hit the gas. I'd grown up in these suburbs. I knew every shortcut. Left down a residential street, quick right, through a shopping center parking lot. The SUV stayed with us, but I'd gained distance. There. Mom pointed to an apartment complex. Pull in there, park between buildings. I did, killing the lights. We sat in the dark, breathing hard, watching. The SUV drove past. Didn't slow down. They'd lost us. We waited 10 minutes, then took back routes to Mom's house. We unloaded everything into her garage, working quickly, constantly checking the street. Once inside, we collapsed on her couch. What have we gotten ourselves into? Mom whispered. Something that started 50 years ago and never ended. I pulled out my laptop. Phoenix Program Vietnam. The search results made my blood run cold. The Phoenix Program was a CIA operation during the Vietnam War. Official purpose: identify and neutralize Viet Cong infrastructure. But neutralize was a euphemism. The Phoenix Program was assassination. Between 1968 and 1972, it was responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. Some were Viet Cong. Many were not. The program was controversial, brutal, and operated in a moral gray zone. This is what Grandpa was involved in. Mom asked. Apparently. But there's more. I kept reading. There were allegations of corruption. Some operatives were using it to eliminate personal enemies, settle scores, even conduct criminal enterprises. You think Grandpa discovered corruption? Maybe. We went to the garage and started going through boxes systematically. Grandma had been incredibly thorough. Newspaper clippings, military records, interview transcripts, photographs. In one box, I found a folder. Crawford, William James. William Crawford, born 1945. Joined the Army in 1966. Phoenix Program in 1971. Died in 1974 in a car accident in Maryland. Grandma's notes in the margins, suspicious. Single car crash. No witnesses. Car fire destroyed evidence. Another folder. Morrison, James Robert. Born 1944. Phoenix program in 1971. Drowned in 1975 while fishing in Montana. More notes, strong swimmer. Grew up on lakes. Why would he drown? 2 men who served with my grandfather. Both dead within 2 years of his death. All 3 deaths ruled accidents or suicide. That's not a coincidence, I said. Mom was looking at another document. A bank statement. My grandfather's account, February 1973. A deposit of $50,000. A fortune in 1973. Where did he get that money? Another document provided the answer. A letter typed and signed, January 1973. Sergeant Beaumont, your cooperation has been noted and appreciated. The attached payment represents the first installment. Upon completion and your return stateside with the materials, the balance will be delivered. Remember that discretion is paramount. Materials, I said. What materials? Mom pulled out another folder. Project Songbird. Inside were heavily redacted documents. But what remained was enough. Project Songbird was a covert operation within the Phoenix program. Its purpose wasn't counterinsurgency. It was intelligence gathering on other Americans. There were suspicions in 1972 that some Phoenix program operatives were running their own operations. Smuggling operations. Drugs, weapons, maybe worse. Project Songbird was an internal affairs operation to gather evidence. And my grandfather was the primary investigator. He was investigating corruption within his own unit, I said. He was collecting evidence of crimes by other American soldiers and CIA operatives. And they killed him for it. I nodded. Crawford and Morrison were probably part of what he was investigating. And when they found out, they eliminated him. Then why did they die too? Because whoever was really in charge needed to eliminate everyone who knew. Clean up all loose ends. Mom's face was pale. Then where's the evidence? The materials Grandpa was supposed to bring back. I thought back to Grandma's diary. Linda pointing at the closet saying Daddy's hiding. Mom, do you remember anything else from that night? She closed her eyes. I remember being scared. Hiding in my closet. And Daddy came in. He was putting something up high. On the top shelf. He told me to be quiet. To stay hidden. And then, her eyes flew open. The bad man came. What closet? In what house? Our house in Fort Lewis. Military housing. That house still exists. I don't know. It was base housing. I searched online. Fort Lewis, Washington. Now Joint Base Lewis McChord. After an hour, I found it. 1247 Elm Street, Building 12, Unit 4. We need to get onto that base, I said. Marcus, you can't just walk onto a military base. You can if you have a reason. You're a veteran's daughter. We can request access to see the house for memorial purposes. We spent the next day navigating bureaucracy. Finally, we got approval for a visit with an escort. 30 minutes. The next morning, we drove to Joint Base Lewis McChord. Building 12 was in an older section. Small duplexes painted beige. Unit 4. Mom stood outside, hands shaking. This is it. This is where it happened. The corporal unlocked the door. Inside was empty but maintained. You've got 30 minutes, he said, stepping outside. Mom walked slowly through the living room. This is it. She pointed to the floor. That's where I found him. Which room was yours? She pointed down a hallway. Left. We went to the bedroom. Small, with a closet. Mom froze in the doorway. I can't. It's okay. Let me check. I opened the closet. Empty, just a rod and a single shelf about 6 feet up. I shone my phone's flashlight. Nothing. I reached up and felt along the shelf. Nothing. It's not here, I said. Wait, Mom said. It was higher. I remember looking up. It seemed so high. Higher than 6 feet? I looked up. The closet was 8 feet tall. Above the shelf was just wall. Or was it? From this angle, I could see a gap between the top of the back wall and the ceiling. A space maybe 4 inches tall. I reached into the gap. My fingers touched something. Fabric. Old, dusty fabric. I pulled. A canvas bag, military green, came out. I climbed down, hands shaking, and opened it. Inside were 7 cassette tapes, each labeled with dates and initials. And a small notebook. We stared at them like they were explosives. We need to get out of here, Mom whispered. Now. I shoved the bag into my jacket. We thanked the corporal and left. We didn't stop until we were 20 miles away, at a diner. In the bathroom, I opened the notebook. First page, my grandfather's handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm dead. I knew it was coming. These tapes contain recordings of conversations, confessions, evidence of criminal conspiracy at the highest levels of the Phoenix program. Names, dates, operations. Everything. I was supposed to bury this. Take their money and stay quiet. But I couldn't. Not after what I saw. If I turn this in, they'll kill me. If I keep quiet, I become one of them. So I'm hiding the evidence and hoping someone finds it. To Linda, Daddy loves you. Daddy's sorry. Stay hidden. Stay safe. Richard Beaumont, March 3, 1973 inch. 6 days before he died. Mom read over my shoulder, tears streaming. He knew. He knew they were going to kill him. And he left evidence anyway. We met Sarah, I should explain. 3 days ago, a journalist named Sarah Crawford contacted me. William Crawford's granddaughter. She'd been investigating her grandfather's death for years. We met her at a coffee shop. She had her own evidence, her own suspicions. When I showed her what we'd found, she knew we were onto something bigger than any of us. Sarah had access to an old cassette player. We went to her hotel room and listened. Tape 1. My grandfather's voice. State your name for the record. Another voice. William Crawford, Sergeant U.S. Army. Tell me about the heroin operation. For the next 40 minutes, Crawford described a systematic smuggling operation. Heroin out of Vietnam into the United States. They had military transport, CIA protection, connections to organized crime. Crawford named names. Officers, CIA operatives, even a congressman. Who's running it? My grandfather asked. We just call him the Colonel. Nobody knows his real name. But he decides who lives and dies. The tape ended. Tape 2. James Morrison, describing weapons smuggling. Tape 3. An officer named Thompson talking about assassination contracts. Using Phoenix program cover to eliminate business rivals, political opponents, anyone who'd pay. Tape 4. Someone describing the murder of a journalist who'd gotten too close. By tape 5, I felt sick. Mom had her hand over her mouth. These weren't just crimes. These were atrocities. Tape 6 was different. A phone call, secretly recorded. Beaumont, we know what you're doing. The voice was cold, authoritative. It ends now. I'm just doing my job. You were assigned to write a report that would clear everyone. Instead, you've been building a case. Because there's a case to build. You have a daughter, don't you? Linda. Pretty little girl. It would be terrible if something happened to her. My grandfather's voice changed. You touch my daughter, and there's nowhere you can hide. You'll do nothing. Because you're going to accept a payment, destroy your evidence, and forget this ever happened. Or your daughter becomes an orphan. Your choice. I need time. You have 48 hours. The tape ended. That's why he took the money, I said. To buy time. To hide the evidence. And they killed him anyway. Tape 7. My grandfather's voice alone. March 3, 1973. This is my final entry. I've hidden the evidence. If I don't survive, whoever finds these tapes, please bring these men to justice. The Colonel's real name is Static. The tape was damaged. Currently stationed at more static. Highest levels of. The crucial information was lost. 50 years, Mom said. And we still don't know who was behind it. I went through the notebook again. Page after page of notes. And on the very last page, a symbol. A bird, maybe a phoenix, with wings spread. Inside its body, 3 letters. SGC. Mom, does SGC mean anything? She shook her head. I uploaded it to image search. Results came back. The symbol appeared in declassified documents. A memo from 1971 about a classified unit. Special Group Command. SGC. Commanding Officer. Colonel Marcus Sterling. I searched the name. Colonel Marcus Sterling, born 1930, career military, multiple Vietnam tours, worked with CIA. Retired 1985. Died 1998. Dead. The man who'd ordered my grandfather's death had been dead for over 20 years. It's over then, Mom said. Maybe not. I kept reading. Sterling had a son. Marcus Sterling Jr. I clicked another link. Oh my God. The screen showed a professional photograph. A man in his 60s. The caption, Marcus Sterling Jr., Deputy Director, Defense Intelligence Agency. One of the highest-ranking intelligence officials in the United States government. His father ran a criminal empire, I said. And now the son has spent his career in intelligence. What are the odds he doesn't know? Or that he hasn't been protecting his father's legacy, Mom added. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number, Mr. Richardson. You've had your 48 hours. Your mother's nursing license will be suspended tomorrow for suspected opioid theft. Your teaching position will be terminated for inappropriate conduct. These are just the beginning. Return what you've taken, or we'll destroy everything. Another text. We're not your enemy. We're offering a way out. Last chance. I showed Mom. Her face hardened. They're threatening everything we have. They're desperate, I said. Which means we have something they're terrified of. So what do? We finish what Grandpa started. We expose everything. How? We don't take it to anyone who can be pressured. We release it everywhere. The internet. Every journalist. Every congressman. We make it so widespread they can't contain it. Mom looked terrified but determined. If we do this, they'll come after us hard. They're already coming. At least this way, we go down fighting. We spent hours digitizing everything. Converting tapes to digital. Photographing every document. Then I created copies. Cloud storage, USB drives, encrypted emails. By 3 a.m., everything was ready. I created a website with a dead man's switch. If I didn't log in every 24 hours, everything would publish automatically. That's our insurance, I explained. We tried to sleep, but at dawn I heard vehicles. 3 black SUVs were coming up the road. Mom, get up. They found us. We grabbed the backpack with the laptop and USB drives. The original tapes. The back door. Mom said. We ran into the forest behind the house. Behind us, car doors slammed. Voices shouting. We ran through trees, branches whipping our faces. Through the trees, I saw another road. An old pickup truck parked outside a cabin. We ran for it. The truck was unlocked, keys in the visor. I started it and we peeled out. In the mirror, I saw 3 men emerge from the forest. One was the man from Pike Place Market. We drove to Seattle. The FBI field office. We parked right out front, where there were cameras. We need to speak to someone immediately, I told the receptionist. We have evidence of murder and conspiracy by government officials, and our lives are in danger. 10 minutes later, we were in an interview room with 2 FBI agents. I told them everything. Showed them the tapes, documents, my grandfather's notebook. They listened with increasingly serious expressions. This is quite a story, one said. We'll need to verify all of this. Verify it quickly, I said. Because the people behind this are trying to kill us. Those are serious allegations. The door opened. Another agent whispered something. Their expressions changed. We need you to wait here while we consult with our superiors. They left. Mom and I sat alone. Did that feel wrong to you? She asked. Everything feels wrong. 20 minutes passed. An hour. Then the door opened. But it wasn't the FBI agents. It was the man from Pike Place Market. He walked in like he owned the place, sat down across from us. Impressive, he said. You made it farther than I expected. But this is the end. The FBI knows everything now, I said. He smiled. The FBI knows what I tell them. You think you can walk into a federal building and expose a sitting deputy director without us having influence? My stomach dropped. By tomorrow, your evidence will be discredited. Sarah's reporting will be retracted. You'll be arrested for theft. Your reputation's destroyed. And I'll write a thoughtful op-ed about conspiracy theorists. One problem. Sarah's voice came from my phone, which was on the table. We're streaming this. Live. To 3 platforms. Thousands watching you confess right now. His face went white. He looked at my phone, then Mom's, then Sarah's. She'd just walked into the room. All recording. All streaming. You're bluffing. Sarah turned her screen toward him. Live viewer count. 47,283. The comments are interesting. Is this real? Someone call the FBI. Want me to read more? He stumbled backward. You've destroyed me, he whispered. No, Mom said. You destroyed yourself. Sirens outside. Real FBI agents burst in, counterintelligence, not compromised. Agent Sarah Chun, FBI counterintelligence, the lead agent said. You're under arrest. Within hours, the story exploded. The live stream had been watched by over 2 million people. There was no containing it. Deputy Director Marcus Sterling was arrested. Congressional hearings began. Investigations into dozens of officials. The country went into shock. But it survived. Because that's what happens when you shine light on darkness. Sarah's breakthrough came from the most unexpected source, a fortune cookie. We were sitting in a Chinese restaurant, exhausted from days of research, when she opened her fortune and stared at it. "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist," she read. "That's it. That's what we've been missing." "What do you mean?" "We've been looking for someone visible. Someone with obvious power. But what if the architect's greatest achievement is invisibility? Someone no one would suspect because officially he has no power at all." "Like who?" "Someone who's technically retired. Out of the public eye but still connected. Someone who's been around long enough to build relationships that transcend administrations." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "Someone like a former national security advisor." She pulled up a photo. An elderly man, late 70s, with kind eyes and a grandfatherly smile. "This is Dr. James Whitmore, former national security advisor under 3 presidents. Retired in 2005. Everyone respects him. He's Washington royalty." "What's his connection to Phoenix program?" "Officially none. He was never in Vietnam. He was working through the State Department. But," she pulled up another document, "he was an Asia policy specialist. And from 1971 to 1973, he was the State Department liaison to CIA operations in Southeast Asia. Including Phoenix program." "Exactly. He would have known everything." Mom was reading over her shoulder. "This says he's known for integrity. He's testified before Congress. Written op-eds condemning corruption." "Perfect cover," Sarah said. "Who would suspect the man who spent 50 years as Washington's conscience?" I wasn't convinced. "This feels like a stretch. Look at this." She pulled up more notes. Chen wrote, "The architect attended Richard's funeral. Had the audacity to offer condolences. Who from Phoenix program would go to the funeral?" Sarah searched Grandma's documents. There, a funeral sign-in book from March 1973. Halfway down, James Whitmore, State Department. "He was there," Sarah said. "He went to your grandfather's funeral, knowing he'd helped cover up the murder." Over the next 3 days, Sarah dug into Whitmore's history. Every major cover-up of the past 50 years, Whitmore had been nearby. Never directly involved, never in the spotlight, but always close enough to influence things. "He's been hiding in plain sight," Sarah said. "But we had no proof." Then Sarah remembered. Chen said the architect keeps trophies. Documentation of his empire. Where would he keep something so dangerous? Somewhere with plausible deniability. Somewhere prestigious. Mom spoke up. "What about a library? Rich people donate their papers to libraries. It's the perfect place to hide something in plain sight." Sarah searched. Yes. Whitmore donated his papers to Georgetown University in 2005. 50 boxes available for research. 2 days later, Sarah was in Georgetown's library, going through the Whitmore papers. Hour after hour. Box after box. Then, at 6 p.m., her call. "I found something. Box 42. 5 notebooks. Labeled Phoenix Rising, Comprehensive Operations Record." My heart stopped. He kept records. Detailed records. Shipments, profits, payoffs. 5 years of operations. And a note. Continued records archived separately. See appendix location. Appendix location? Sarah checked the catalog. There are restricted materials. Documents that can't be accessed until 2050. Until he's dead. Exactly. But I know where they're stored. Basement of the library in a locked cage. She looked at us through the video call. "We need those restricted boxes." "That's illegal," I said. "So is what your grandfather did. Sometimes you break small laws to expose big ones." Mom and I looked at each other. "Okay, let's do it." The plan. Sarah would stay late, hide until closing, then access the basement. We'd be outside as lookouts. 2 nights later, we executed it. Sarah entered at 4 p.m. At 8 p.m., the library closed. Sarah texted, "Going down now. Found the cage. Working on lock. I'm in. 12 boxes. Taking photos. This will take time." An hour passed. Box 3. More ledgers. Government officials, CIA officers. Another hour. Box 7. Recordings. Cassette tapes. Dozens of them. At midnight. Done. Coming out. But then, security guard walking building. Need to hide. We watched flashlight beams in the windows. Finally, he's gone. Coming out now. Sarah emerged, got in our car. We drove away. Her phone was filled with photographs. Hundreds of pages. Ledgers, logs, correspondence. and cassette tape labels. This is everything, she said. 50 years of criminal activity, documented by the architect himself. We spent the night reviewing everything. The scope was staggering. Heroin operations evolved into global criminal networks funding black ops, toppling governments, enriching officials. And Whitmore had documented all of it. Why? Mom asked. Ego, Sarah said. He was proud. This was his masterpiece. The cassette tapes were labeled with conversations between Whitmore and various officials. Discussions of operations, authorizations for assassinations, cover-ups. If we had those actual tapes, Sarah said, we could prove everything. But they're locked in that cage. Not for long. We go back. We steal them. That's insane. And if we don't, all we have are photographs. I had an idea. What if we don't steal them? What if we make Whitmore bring them to us? How? We publish what we have. Expose him. And when he denies it, we say we have the recordings. He'll think we already have them. Sarah caught on. He'll try to destroy the evidence. He'll go to the library himself. And we follow him. Confront him with cameras rolling. Sarah published her article 3 days later. Washington Post, front page. Former National Security Advisor linked to decades-long criminal conspiracy. The architect revealed. The article laid out everything. Phoenix Rising. The ledgers. James Whitmore. Whitmore issued a statement, false and defamatory. But we were watching his house. 2 days after the article, at 3 a.m., he emerged, got in a car, drove toward Georgetown. We followed. He parked near the library, checked around, went to a side entrance. He had a key. We waited 5 minutes, then followed. The library was dark. Sarah led us to the basement. We found him in the cage, frantically stuffing cassette tapes into a briefcase. Dr. Whitmore, Sarah said, phone camera recording. He spun around. The kindly grandfather face twisted into something cold. You've made a terrible mistake. Have we? Or have we exposed yours? He straightened. This is private property. You're trespassing. We don't need this to be admissible, I said. We just need it to be public. You don't know who I am. You think you've uncovered some conspiracy. But you have no idea what was at stake. What we were protecting. Sarah kept filming. This country. Democracy. Do you think that's free? Someone has to do the dirty work. Is that how you justify murder? Mom asked. I didn't kill anyone. I gave orders. That's different. Not in any way that matters. In every way that matters. Your father was too good. He couldn't understand that good people sometimes do bad things. He was going to expose operations protecting American interests. So yes, I authorized his removal. You're a monster, Mom whispered. I'm a patriot. What about the heroin? The drugs you pumped into cities? For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. The funding was necessary. Off-books operations require off-books funding. You're a drug dealer, Sarah said. I got nothing. The money went to operations. And the millions in Sterling Foundation accounts. He fell silent. Some went to operations. But plenty went to you. His face hardened. Those tapes? They don't just incriminate me. They incriminate hundreds. Senators, generals, CIA directors, presidents. The entire national security establishment. Good, Sarah said. You think so? Release this, and you trigger a constitutional crisis. You destroy faith in institutions. You compromise intelligence worldwide. People will die. People already died because of what you've done. And more will die if you expose this. America has enemies. Real enemies who'd love to see our intelligence crippled, our government in chaos. You're giving them what they want. It was a good speech. But Mom wasn't buying it. My father died because he believed in truth. In accountability. You took that from him. You've spent 50 years pretending to be good while covering up evil. I don't care about your justifications. You're going to face justice. Whitmore looked at her with pity. Justice? I made one phone call before coming here. By tomorrow, your evidence will be discredited. You'll be arrested. Your reputation's destroyed. One problem, Sarah said. We're streaming this. Live. Thousands watching you confess. His face went white. You're bluffing. Sarah showed him her screen. Viewer count, 47,283. Comments are interesting. Is this real? Someone call the FBI. Want me to read more? He stumbled backward. You've destroyed me. No, Mom said. You destroyed yourself. 50 years ago, when you decided power was more important than truth. Sirens outside. Someone watching had called police. Whitmore looked at the tapes, then at us. He deflated. I built something magnificent. A machine that protected American interests for half a century. And you've torn it down. We are, I said. Police arrived. FBI agents followed. By dawn, Whitmore was in custody. The live stream had been watched by over 2 million people. There was no containing it. Whitmore had confessed on camera to 50 years of crimes. The fallout was exactly as he'd predicted. Congressional hearings. Investigations. A constitutional crisis. But the country survived. Democracy survived. Because that's what happens when you shine light on darkness. The envelope arrived exactly 3 days after Whitmore's arrest. Same yellow paper. Same handwriting style, but different from Grandma's. The letter inside was dated 2 weeks ago. Dear Marcus, by the time you read this, I will be dead. My name is Thomas Chun, Robert's son. The conspiracy you've exposed is real. Whitmore is guilty. But there's one more truth you need to know. One more person who was involved from the beginning. Someone in your own family. Check your grandmother's safe deposit box. Bank of America, Seattle, account number 847293. The key is hidden in her wedding ring, inside the band. You'll need it x-rayed. What you find will hurt. But you deserve the complete truth. I'm sorry, Marcus. Thomas Chin. My hands shook. Someone in my own family? I called Mom immediately. We need Grandma's wedding ring. An hour later, we were at a jewelry store with the ring. The jeweler x-rayed it, looked confused. There's definitely something inside. A tiny compartment. Very clever. He opened it. Inside was a key so small I'd never have found it without knowing. We went to the bank. Safe deposit box number 847293. Inside was one envelope. In my grandfather's handwriting. To be opened only if the truth comes out. Eleanor, if it's you reading this, I'm sorry. I wasn't just investigating Phoenix Rising. I was part of it. For 6 months, from September 1972 to March 1973, I participated. I helped smuggle heroin. I helped arrange transport. I took their money. I told myself I was gathering evidence. But the truth is, at first, I did it for the money. I wanted to give you and Linda a better life. It wasn't until I saw what that heroin was doing back home, to American kids, that I realized what I'd become. The community's being destroyed. And I knew I had to stop it. That's when I started documenting everything. That's when I became a threat. But Eleanor, you need to know, you benefited too. The house we bought in 1973, drug money. The savings bonds for Linda, drug money. Everything I bought you that year, blood money. You didn't know. I told you I'd gotten a bonus, lucky investments. But it was all from the operation. I'm telling you this because if the truth comes out, you need to be prepared. People will say we profited. They'll say we're guilty too. And I am guilty. I participated. I profited. Then I tried to make it right, and they killed me for it. But you're innocent. You knew nothing. If Linda ever learns this, tell her, Daddy loved her. Daddy tried to do the right thing in the end. And Daddy died hoping someone would finish what he started. I love you, Eleanor. I'm sorry for everything. Richard. The silence was deafening. I read it twice, hoping the words would change. Mom was crying silently. He was part of it. My father was part of the operation he died trying to expose. He stopped, I said weakly. He tried to make it right. After he profited. After he used drug money to buy a house. To build our life. She looked at me pale. Everything I inherited. The house, the savings bonds. It's all tainted. Blood money. Grandma didn't know, Sarah said gently. But I'm not innocent. I've lived off that money my whole life. The house I grew up in, drug money. My college fund, blood money. Every advantage I had. I felt sick. We'd spent months positioning my grandfather as a hero. A martyr. And he was those things. But he was also guilty. What do we do? I asked. Mom wiped her tears. When she looked up, I saw steel in her eyes. We tell the truth. All of it. We don't get to pick which parts make us look good. If we're exposing corruption, we expose all of it. Even when it destroys us. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Your grandfather tried to make it right. He died trying. The least I can do is finish that. With complete honesty. Sarah looked at us. You understand what this means? People will destroy you. They'll call you hypocrites. Say your whole crusade was based on a lie. Let them, Mom said. The truth is the truth. My father made terrible choices. But he also tried to fix them, and it cost his life. That matters. Hiding this, that would dishonor what he tried to do. We held a press conference 2 days later. Mom read a statement. My name is Linda Richardson. I'm the daughter of Richard Beaumont, killed in 1973 after trying to expose Phoenix Rising. I'm here to tell you something painful. Richard Beaumont wasn't just an investigator. He was, for a time, a participant. He smuggled heroin. He took drug money. He benefited from the conspiracy. And our family, unknowingly, has continued to benefit for 50 years. I'm telling you this because the truth matters. All of it. My father made terrible choices. He let greed corrupt him. But in the end, he tried to do the right thing. He documented crimes, knowing it would cost his life. And it did. The truth is complicated. People are complicated. My father was both guilty and heroic. Both corrupt and courageous. He participated in evil, then died trying to stop it. I'm donating everything I inherited, my house, my savings, everything, to addiction recovery programs and veterans services. It won't undo the harm. But it's a start. The Phoenix Rising conspiracy destroyed lives for 50 years. My father was caught up in that corruption. But he also gave his life trying to stop it. And I hope that, in the end, counts for something. The reaction was brutal. Some praised our honesty. Most didn't. Social media exploded. Hypocrites. They profited then pretended to be heroes. The whole family is corrupt. Former supporters turned on us. News outlets that had celebrated us now ran stories questioning everything. For weeks, it felt crushing. But Mom never wavered. She sold her house. Donated every penny. Moved into a tiny apartment. Started volunteering at a crisis center for veterans struggling with addiction. I can't fix what my father did, she told me. But I can try to help people hurt by what he was part of. That's all I can do. Slowly, the narrative shifted. People started talking about redemption. About how doing the right thing sometimes means admitting you or your family did wrong first. About how truth matters more than reputation. A month later, a victims' rights organization called. They wanted to honor us, not for exposing Whitmore but for telling the complete truth, even when it hurt. What your mother did, the director said, admitting guilt, giving up everything. That took more courage than anything else in this story. That's real accountability. That night, in Mom's tiny apartment, I asked, do you think Grandpa would be proud? She thought for a long moment. I think he'd be relieved. Relieved that the truth finally came out. All of it. Even the parts that make him look bad. Because he spent his last month trying to expose what he'd been part of. We just finished what he started. Honestly, I thought we were done. That the story was finally over. But 3 months later, I received one final package. 3 months after we'd donated everything and told the complete truth, I was back teaching. Trying to find normal again. The scandal had faded. Some officials went to jail. Most didn't. The system absorbed it and moved on, like systems do. James Whitmore had died in custody. Officially suicide, though nobody believed that. I was grading papers after school when the package arrived. Delivery person brought it to my classroom. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a small wooden box. Inside that, a cassette tape with a label in my grandfather's handwriting. For Marcus. Play this when you understand. For Marcus. Me. Specifically. How could he have known, 50 years ago, that someone named Marcus would find this? Unless he'd planned it that way. I borrowed a cassette player and locked myself in my classroom. I pressed play. Static. Then my grandfather's voice. If you're hearing this, my plan worked. You found the evidence. You exposed the conspiracy. You told the complete truth. Even the parts that made our family look guilty. And now you're wondering, how did I know? The answer is, I didn't. Not for certain. But I believed. I believed that somewhere, in some generation, there would be someone brave enough. Someone who valued truth over safety. Over reputation. Over everything. I'm recording this in February 1973. I have 1 month left to live. They've made that clear. I've hidden evidence everywhere. Some you've found. Some will be found by others, years from now. But Marcus, and yes, I named you deliberately. I told Eleanor that if you had a son, he should be named Marcus after me. I told her it would honor my memory. But really, it was so you'd know this message was for you. Marcus, I need you to understand. The evidence isn't the point. You are. Phoenix Rising isn't special. It's just one conspiracy among thousands. One group of powerful men using power for personal gain while wrapping it in patriotism. You can't stop all of them. You can't expose every conspiracy. The system is too big, too entrenched. But you can do something more important. Something that will echo long after headlines fade. You can refuse to participate. You can refuse to stay silent. You can show people that truth matters more than safety, more than reputation, more than anything. I participated in evil. I took their money. I helped poison communities. And yes, I tried to make it right, but that doesn't erase what I did. I'm leaving you this message because I want you to learn from my mistakes. Not just about corruption, about something deeper. See, I thought I was being smart when I joined Phoenix Rising. I thought, I'll participate, gather evidence, then expose it. I'll be the hero. But that's not how corruption works. It happens gradually. One compromise leads to another. One justification makes the next easier. Before you know it, you're so deep in darkness you can't remember the light. That's what happened to me. By the time I realized what I'd become, I'd already hurt so many people. I tried to fix it. But some things can't be fixed. They can only be confessed. So that's my legacy to you. Not the evidence. Not the exposure. But this lesson. Never participate in something wrong while telling yourself you'll fix it later. Never compromise your values planning to reclaim them someday. Because that someday might never come. And even if it does, the damage is already done. You're going to face choices in your life. Opportunities to take shortcuts. To participate in something wrong because it's convenient, profitable, or because everyone else is doing it. And when you face those choices, I want you to remember me. Remember that I thought I was smart enough to beat the system. Remember that I was wrong. Choose truth from the beginning. Not at the end, when it costs everything. From the beginning, when it costs opportunity. That's harder. That's scarier. But it's the only way to avoid becoming what I became. Now, I need to tell you one more thing. There's one more piece of evidence I haven't told you about. One recording more important than all the others. It's hidden in the place where you first learned to be afraid. Where your mother first learned the world could be cruel. Where I died trying to protect truth. Go back to Fort Lewis. Unit 4, Building 12. The closet where I hid the canvas bag wasn't just a hiding place. It was a symbol. Your mother hid in that closet while I died. She stayed quiet, stayed hidden, even terrified. She survived because she followed instructions when everything in her wanted to run to me. I hid my evidence there because I wanted whoever found it to understand. Sometimes survival requires hiding. Sometimes wisdom requires waiting. But there's more. Behind the back wall of that closet, there's a false panel. I cut it myself. Behind it is a recording. The most important recording. On it, you'll hear James Whitmore's voice. You'll hear him ordering my death. Explicitly. By name. With details. It's the smoking gun that makes everything undeniable. I didn't include it with the other evidence because if it was found too easily, they'd suppress it. They'd claim it was fake. But if someone finds it 50 years later, after fighting through everything else, after earning the right to truth, then it means something. Then it can't be dismissed. So go back, Marcus. Finish this. Get that recording. And then decide what to do with it. But know this. Once you have it, you'll face a choice. You can release it. Expose Whitmore completely. Maybe trigger more investigations. Maybe change things. Or you can keep it. Use it as insurance. Leverage. The way people with power always do. One choice makes you a hero. The other makes you what I became. Choose wisely. I love you, Marcus. Even though I'll never meet you, I love you. You're my legacy. Not the evidence. You. Make me proud. Your grandfather, Richard Beaumont. The tape ended. I sat in my empty classroom, tears streaming, understanding finally what my grandfather had done. He'd created a test. Not just for me, but for whoever found his evidence. A test of character. He'd hidden the most important piece last. Behind all the others. So whoever found it would have already proven themselves. Would have already chosen truth over safety, honesty over reputation. And now he was giving me one final choice. What kind of person would I be with ultimate power in my hands? I called Mom. Told her everything. We need to go back to Fort Lewis. One more time. Marcus, maybe we should let this rest. We've done enough. I know. But Grandpa left us one more gift. And I need to see what it is. We drove to Joint Base Lewis McChord the next day. Sarah came with us. We explained to Base Command about evidence related to a historical case. They were cooperative. Our story had been big enough. Unit 4, Building 12. The same duplex where my grandfather died. Where my mother hid in a closet while her father was murdered. We went to the bedroom. Opened the closet. This time I brought tools. I measured carefully. The back wall was 8 inches from the exterior wall. I found the seam. Pried the panel loose. Behind it was a hollow space. And in that space, one more cassette tape sealed in plastic. Label: The Truth, February 28, 1973. 5 days before my grandfather died. We listened right there, in that closet, in that haunted place. The recording was a phone conversation. My grandfather had recorded someone calling him. The voice was James Whitmore's. 50 years younger, but unmistakably him. Sergeant Beaumont, we need to discuss your investigation. I'm listening. You've been thorough, but you've also been foolish. I've been doing my job. Your job was to make this go away quietly. Instead, you've compiled enough evidence to embarrass very important people. I've compiled evidence of crimes. That's very noble. But principles don't keep your daughter safe. Don't you dare. I'm not threatening. I'm explaining reality. You have evidence that could harm national security. That evidence needs to disappear. And so does anyone who's seen it. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about necessary measures. Crawford and Morrison understand. They're willing to disappear quietly. But you've become a problem. Because I won't help you cover up a drug empire? Because you won't see the bigger picture. This operation funds activities that protect American lives. Activities Congress would never approve. We're doing what needs to be done, and yes, we're profiting. But the work matters. By addicting American kids to heroin? By funding operations that keep America safe. There's always collateral damage in war. This isn't war. This is greed wrapped in a flag. Believe what you want. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to destroy your evidence. You're going to accept a generous payment. And you're going to die heroically in Vietnam in a few months. We'll fake the paperwork. Your family gets benefits. Everyone wins. And if I refuse, then you die less heroically. Here. At home. And your daughter becomes collateral damage. Your choice. Take the money and live a few more months, or refuse and die tonight. A long pause. Then my grandfather's voice, steady despite audible fear. I'll take the money. I'll destroy the evidence. Just promise me Linda stays safe. You have my word. Destroy the evidence by midnight tonight, and your daughter lives. This conversation never happened. This conversation never happened. The phone clicked. The recording continued, my grandfather's breathing, heavy and afraid. Then his voice, speaking to the recording device. They're going to kill me anyway, whether I destroy the evidence or not. But if I destroy it, at least Linda lives. So I'll pretend to comply. I'll take their money. I'll act like I'm destroying everything. But I won't. I'll hide it. All of it. And someday someone will find it. Someone will finish what I started. And Whitmore, if you're somehow listening to this in the future, you made a mistake. You threatened my daughter. And a father's love is stronger than any conspiracy. You can kill me, but you can't kill the truth. Not forever. To whoever finds this, make them pay. Make them all pay. The tape ended. We sat in that closet, listening to proof of murder. Undeniable, explicit proof. This changes everything, Sarah said. With this, we can reopen investigations. Or, Mom said, we can let it rest. Whitmore's dead. Most people on those tapes are dead. The ones who aren't are already facing consequences. What do we gain? She looked at me. What did your grandfather say? That once you had this, you'd face a choice? To use it like a hero or like someone with power. I held the tape. The ultimate evidence. And I realized, my grandfather had given me this choice deliberately. This was his final lesson. We release it, I said. But not to restart investigations. We release it as a historical document. We donate it to the National Archives. We let historians study it. We make it part of the permanent record. Why? Sarah asked. Because Grandpa wasn't just trying to punish people. He was trying to teach a lesson. About what happens when power corrupts. When systems fail. When good people stay silent. I looked at them. This tape is his voice from beyond the grave, saying, this is what evil sounds like when it thinks nobody's listening. This is what power does when it thinks it's untouchable. Remember this. Learn from this. Don't let it happen again. That's not justice, Sarah said. Maybe memory is more important than justice, Mom said quietly. Justice is for the living. Memory is forever. We donated the tape to the National Archives 3 days later. Made it public. Explained what it represented. The news cycle picked it up for a few days. Whitmore's reputation, already destroyed, became worse. Some called for posthumous prosecution. But mostly people just listened. They heard a powerful man ordering murder. They heard him justifying crime with patriotism. They heard what corruption actually sounds like. And maybe that was enough. 3 months later, on what would have been my grandfather's 80th birthday, Mom and I visited his grave. It was the first time Mom had been there since the funeral 50 years ago. We stood at the headstone. Richard Beaumont, 1945 to 1973. Beloved husband and father. Do you think he was a good man? I asked. Mom thought for a long time. I think he was a flawed man who tried to be good. Who failed, then tried to fix his failure. Who died trying to do the right thing. Is that enough? To make him a hero? I don't know if he was a hero. But he was human. He made terrible choices. But he also made the hardest choice, admitting he was wrong and trying to make it right, even when it cost everything. She touched the headstone. I forgive you, Daddy. For all of it. For participating. For bringing drug money into our lives. For leaving us. I forgive you because you tried. You tried to fix what you'd broken. And that's all any of us can do. I knelt down. Thank you, Grandpa. For trusting that someone would find the truth. For believing that truth mattered more than your reputation. For teaching me that redemption is possible, even when you don't live to see it. As we walked back to the car, Mom took my hand. Marcus, I need to tell you something. What's that? All my life, I've been running from my father's memory. From that night. From the trauma. But now I'm proud. Proud of him. Proud of what he stood for. Proud of what we did to honor him. He'd be proud of you too, Mom. She smiled, tears in her eyes. I think maybe I can finally let him rest. Finally let myself rest. 3 weeks later, I was back in my classroom when one of my students, a 17-year-old named Derek, stayed after class. Mr. Richardson, can I ask you something personal? Sure, Derek. That story about your grandfather. The conspiracy. All of it. I've been reading about it. And I wanted to know. He hesitated. How did you decide to go public? Knowing it would hurt your family? Knowing people would attack you? I thought about how to answer. Because the truth mattered more than how we looked. My grandfather participated in something terrible. But he also tried to stop it. If we'd hidden that first part and only told the heroic part, we would have been lying. And the whole point was to stop the lies. But people called you hypocrites. They did. And some of what they said was fair. We did benefit from drug money, even unknowingly. We don't get to escape that just because we exposed the conspiracy. So why do it? Why not just walk away? Because walking away would have meant my grandfather died for nothing. It would have meant all those years of my grandmother investigating, documenting, preserving evidence, all of it wasted. And it would have meant the cycle continues. People in power doing terrible things, covering them up, and never facing consequences. Derek nodded slowly. My dad works for a company. I think they're doing something illegal. Environmental stuff. Dumping chemicals. I found some documents. But if I report it, he'll lose his job. My family depends on that job. Ah, that's why he was asking. That's a hard situation, Derek. What would you do? I thought about my grandfather. About the choice he'd faced. Participate or expose. Take the money or risk everything. I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you what I learned from my grandfather's story. The compromises we make, telling ourselves we'll fix things later, those compromises become who we are. My grandfather thought he could participate in evil, gather evidence, then expose it. But by the time he tried to fix it, the damage was done. To him, to others, to his soul. So I should report it? Even if it destroys my family. I'm saying you should think about what kind of person you want to be. Not what choice is easiest or safest. But what choice you can live with. What choice lets you look at yourself in the mirror. Derek nodded, thanked me, and left. I don't know what he decided. I hope he found a way to do the right thing. But that conversation reminded me why my grandfather's story matters. Not because we exposed a 50-year-old conspiracy. Not because we brought down powerful people. But because we showed that truth matters. That accountability matters. That admitting your own family's guilt matters. That night, I got an email from Sarah. She'd finished her book about the Phoenix Rising conspiracy. She wanted to know if she could dedicate it to my grandfather. To Richard Beaumont, the dedication read. Who proved that redemption is possible, even when you don't live to see it. Who showed that the courage to admit you were wrong is greater than the courage to pretend you were right. Who reminded us that truth, however painful, is always better than comfortable lies. I called her. That's perfect. There's been interest from Hollywood, she said. They want to make a movie. Docudrama. They're offering a lot of money. What did you tell them? I told them I'd have to ask you and your mother. It's your story too. Mom and I discussed it. In the end, we said yes on one condition, that they tell the whole truth. The part where my grandfather participated in the crimes. The part where we unknowingly benefited. All of it. No whitewashing, Mom said. No making us into perfect heroes. Because that's not what this story is about. The movie came out 2 years later. It was called The Phoenix Tapes. It told the whole story, the good, the bad, the complicated truth. Some critics praised it. Others said it was too harsh on my grandfather, or not harsh enough on the government, or too sympathetic to us, or not sympathetic enough. But it started conversations. About corruption. About accountability. About how good people can do bad things. About redemption. And that, I realized, was my grandfather's true legacy. Not the conspiracy he exposed. Not the evidence he left. But the conversation he started. The question he forced people to ask. What would you do? When faced with a choice between safety and truth, between reputation and honesty, between comfort and integrity, what would you choose? 5 years after we opened that metal box in Grandma's closet, I was invited to speak at a conference on government accountability. Standing at that podium, looking out at a room full of people, I said, my grandfather's story isn't exceptional. Every day, people in positions of power face choices between doing what's right and doing what's convenient. Most choose convenience. My grandfather did too for a while. What makes his story worth telling isn't that he was perfect. It's that he wasn't. He participated in evil. He profited from it. And then he tried to fix it, knowing it would cost him everything. He didn't succeed in exposing the conspiracy while he was alive. But he planted seeds. He left evidence. He trusted that someone, someday, would care enough to find the truth. My grandmother spent 50 years tending those seeds. Investigating. Documenting. Preserving. And when I found that metal box, I had a choice. Walk away and stay safe, or step forward and risk everything. I chose to step forward. Not because I'm brave, but because my grandfather and grandmother showed me that truth matters more than safety. That some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight costs you everything. The Phoenix Rising conspiracy destroyed thousands of lives over 50 years. We can't undo that damage. We can't bring back the people who died. We can't fix all the families broken by addiction, all the communities poisoned by corruption. But we can remember. We can learn. And we can choose every single day to value truth over comfort. To demand accountability from power. To refuse to participate in evil, even when participation would be easier. That's my grandfather's real legacy. Not the tapes or documents or evidence, but the reminder that each of us has a choice. And the choices we make define who we are. The speech was recorded, went viral online, was watched by millions. And in the comments, I saw the same pattern over and over. This inspired me to report corruption at my workplace. I've been staying silent about something. Not anymore. I thought I could compromise my values temporarily. This reminded me there's no such thing as temporary compromise. My grandfather had been dead for over 50 years. But his message was still changing lives. That's when I finally understood what he'd done. He hadn't just left evidence of a conspiracy. He'd left a moral inheritance. A legacy that said, truth matters. Accountability matters. Admitting your mistakes matters. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is confess your own guilt while exposing others. Last month, on the anniversary of my grandfather's death, Mom and I went back to Hillcrest Cemetery one more time. We brought flowers. Not just for my grandfather, but for my grandmother too. Standing there, between their graves, Mom said, they're together now. Finally at peace. Do you think they're proud of us? She smiled. I think they're relieved. Relieved that their sacrifice meant something. That the truth came out. That justice, however imperfect, was served. And that we told the whole truth. Including the ugly parts. Especially the ugly parts. Because that's what makes the story real. What makes it matter. As we walked back to the car, I realized something. The letter that started all this, Grandma Eleanor's letter to me, had said, your mother is not who you think she is. For a long time, I thought that meant Mom was hiding something sinister. Some dark secret. But I understood now what Grandma really meant. My mother wasn't just the stable, normal nurse I'd always known. She was also a survivor. A 2-year-old girl who'd hidden in a closet while her father was murdered. Who'd carried that trauma for 50 years. who'd been afraid every single day of her life. And when given the chance to hide behind that trauma, to use it as an excuse to keep secrets, she'd chosen truth instead. She'd chosen to admit her father's guilt, to give up everything she'd inherited, to face public humiliation. All because truth mattered more than safety. That's who my mother really was. Not a simple, predictable person, but a brave, complicated person who'd made the hardest choice of her life. We all did. My grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, me. We all faced the same choice in different ways across 3 generations. Truth or safety. Honesty or reputation. Integrity or comfort. And we all chose truth. That choice cost us everything. But it also gave us something money can't buy. The knowledge that we did the right thing. That we didn't stay silent. That we didn't participate in the lies. My grandfather's been dead for 53 years now. The conspiracy he died fighting has been exposed. The architect has been revealed. Justice, however imperfect, has been served. But his real victory wasn't any of that. His real victory was that 3 generations later, his great-grandson, me, understands the lesson he tried to teach. There's no such thing as compromising your values temporarily. There's no such thing as participating in evil to expose it later. There's no such thing as planning to be honest someday. There's only this moment, this choice, this decision about who you're going to be. And in the end, that's the only thing that matters. Choose wisely. Choose truth. Even when it costs you everything. That's my story. That's my family's story. It's messy. It's complicated. There are no perfect heroes, no pure villains. Just people making choices, facing consequences, trying to do better. If you take anything from this story, let it be this: truth matters. Your integrity matters. The choices you make today define who you'll be tomorrow. Don't wait to do the right thing. Don't compromise planning to fix it later. Don't participate in evil, even with good intentions. Because as my grandfather learned, and as he tried to teach me across 50 years and from beyond the grave, some mistakes can be redeemed, but they can never be undone. Choose the person you want to be. Then be that person. Every day. Every choice. That's the real legacy. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. If this story moved you, if it made you think about truth and integrity and the choices we all face, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Story Matrix Hub for more stories that matter. Leave a comment below. Have you ever faced a choice between truth and safety? What did you choose? What would you do if you found evidence that implicated your own family? Remember, your story matters. Your choices matter. Your integrity matters. Until next time, this is Story Matrix Hub, reminding you that the truth, however painful, is always worth fighting for. Stay brave. Stay honest. Stay true.